tent, and they started again reclamation of land, but they never got to the phase reopening. And they did come and meet with me in December to indicate that Hurricane Melissa would have set back their time frame. As you may understand, GISCO is a state-owned company in China, and as such, there is a very distinct structure in relation to decision making. So while you have a team here on the ground, the people who make the decisions are in China. And this has to be a defining year for GISCO Alpat. The government's position is that GISCO Alpat needs to start the reopening process, and it has to start this year. It still has some of the largest bauxite reserves. The entire economy of St. Elizabeth and Jamaica, especially in keeping with the recovery, is depending on mining and aluminum mining. We see what's happening worldwide with the price of aluminum and just the drive for these critical elements. So we're going to go to China to meet with GISCO, to meet with the owners of the plant, and to get some definitive word from them regarding reopening. And then, depending on how those discussions go, the government will have to make some decisions. Clearly, while we're there, it's a long trip. We have other companies like Pan Caribbean Sugar, which is a Chinese company, Complant, which is in charge of the Frome Sugar Factory. You know, they have been having some challenges. We plan to sit with them. And clearly, we're also going to take the opportunity to engage the Ministry of Agriculture over there, so that we can look at deeper partnerships in relation to our agricultural sector.
Yeah. One of the things as well yesterday you mentioned, and I think for persons who grew up in the rural parts of Jamaica, is the value that has been discovered in our red mud.
Yeah, it's something that we've known and spoken about for a long time. It is nothing that we've been able to truly action. So there's a lot of talk nowadays about rare earth elements, and you can understand why. It's about 17 elements that are critical to especially things like electric vehicles and just things that have become our part of our modern day lives, like our cell phones. Our nearshore neighbor in the United States has placed extreme emphasis on the development of critical minerals. In fact, so much so that there is now a major partnership with the Gramercy plant, which is a plant that we're familiar with, because our Discovery bauxite plant here sends our bauxite to Gramercy in Louisiana, where it is then processed. And one of the things that's happening in Louisiana now is that working with the government of the United States, they're seeking to develop a commercial plant to take rare earth elements from our red mud. That is something that we piloted about 12 years ago with a company out of Japan, where they worked with the Jamaica Bauxite Institute, and at the Jamaica Bauxite Institute is a pilot plant. So we have proven over a decade now that you can extract rare earth elements from the red mud. However, the question is commercial quantities, viability, technology. Technology has advanced significantly since that time. So we are now actively moving on that on two fronts. I think it's very clear, and I made it clear in the House yesterday, that our position is that our Mining Act is clear on the point that if you get a license for one mineral, and while you are processing that mineral, you find something else, then that should be reported and royalties should be paid, because those minerals are Jamaican minerals. So we're going to pursue that. Outside of that, we also are working now with the local licensee to develop a commercial rare earth element extraction plant, using the Jamaica Bauxite Institute pilot plant and expanding it into a commercial plant. That should happen over the next 2 years, and that would be a game changer for us, because if we can do that to commercial quantities, it gives us another stream of income, another industry, and then puts Jamaica at the forefront of these discussions around critical elements.
Absolutely. And I know that there are a number of representatives here from different news stations who will have questions later on. So we're going to keep things moving along. We're going to be heading into fisheries, because that was another part of the presentation yesterday that a lot of persons were surprised as to the scale of the ambition when concerned fisheries and what we have been doing even since Hurricane Melissa.
Yeah, our fisheries sector, has been getting a lot of attention. And I have to commend the NFA. One of the things that we did a few years ago that people may take for granted was to move from a division of the ministry to an authority. And we have more than tripled the number of human resources at the NFA. right? And that is because we're taking our fisheries sector very seriously. And on a whole host of things. I mean, we're building out a new hatchery that we expect to finish, and this is for tilapia. So all our freshwater fish farmers, one of the big challenges in that industry is their ability to get fry. So we've been on this project. We had some delays. We're going to finish it this year. We have about 200 million to finish that project, and that will increase our ability to provide tilapia stock almost fivefold. But outside of that, some exciting things are happening. Freshwater prawn. You know, a lot of us love our shrimp, we love our prawn. We want to grow that commercially, and we've started. So we now have a commercial freshwater prawn hatchery at the NFA. In fact, last year we sold 147,000 post-larvae out into 12 commercial farmers, 32 backyard farmers. They are now growing that prawn and selling into the market space. And we plan to expand that this year. Outside of that, we've been taking things like sea moss farming. Yes, sea moss farming, where we're planting sea moss out in the sea so that we can harvest it commercially, taking that more seriously. We've trained people in planting, harvesting, and we're seeing the numbers go up. Same thing with oysters, right? You know, I told a story yesterday about our oyster farmers in Hanover and Westmoreland suffered a major loss with Hurricane Melissa, but we're helping them to get back up. But probably our most exciting project is our cage project, right? We have a vast amount of sea. We consume significant amount of seafood. Unfortunately, a lot of that is imported. So we have to fix that. We are now growing snapper in the sea in cages, right? And we just did a pilot, and this is something that's happening all over the world. We are the first in the English-speaking Caribbean to get it done, but it's happening all over the world. If you look in Asia, that's the way of the world now. So we had to try it. We had to pilot it. It is working. Now we're looking to commercialize it. So if you're looking for something to invest in, come speak to the NFA.
Yeah, let's talk about as well the kind of support given to the fishers to go further, you know, out at sea to expand the offerings.
Our fishers have gone through a lot. I'll say that. Hurricane Melissa was a significant blow to our fishery sector. Over 3,000 boats that have been damaged. And we have been working with our fishers to get them back out there. We've been distributing fish wire. We've been doing a boat and engine project. I want our fishers to know that we're going to do more. Right? It is a process. It is a journey. And we are step by step trying to reach more fishers. But one of the big things that we're doing is teaching our fishers how to go further out. Because everything is out there. The tuna is out there. The marlin is out there. The mahi-mahi is out there. And right now, we're not capitalizing on that enough. So we've trained 320 fishers to go further out. And we are seeing the results of that. I mean, I'm in the groups, Debbie. And you see they're posting the tuna, you see they're posting the marlin. What we have to do, and we're planning to do this year, is help them with the management of that. Because how you manage these pelagic species, especially to keep them fresh, and that's what the market is looking for, is important. So we have to, for example, outlay all our fishing beaches with ice. Something as basic as that, but with the capacity to never be out of that. So we're going to go on a program for that this year.
Yeah. And how have you been managing as well the restrictions, you know, for the seasonal offerings as well, the lobsters, etc.? How have we been managing that, and the fishers as well abiding by those restrictions?
Well, you know, so far so good. I don't want to, they would say knock on wood. But we made a major change this year. And that major change was we still have a closed fishing season for spiny lobster. But ultimately, once you had fish during the open season, once you had declared, once we had checked that you had it, then you can trade in it during the closed season. It means that people can consume lobster all year round, but under that stipulation. You have to have declared it. You have to be traded with somebody who is a declarant. And I want people to know, if you have not followed that, and you're trying to beat the system by still selling lobster, our enforcement team is going to find you. You're going to be charged. You're going to be put before the court. Because we take it very seriously. But so far, it has been going extremely well. And what it means is that regular Jamaicans can have access to lobster. Our hospitality sector can have access to lobster even in the closed season. So we're monitoring it, but it's going well so far.
Yeah, Jamaicans are still a little hesitant when it comes to choosing tilapia. How have we been helping them?
You know, I would say we have turned the proverbial corner on that, to be honest with you. There was a time that Jamaicans were extremely hesitant. And for a number of reasons, there were a lot of falsehoods out there. One of the things that we have done with the NFA is that we have run a marketing campaign to really change that conversation and to put the facts out there, nutritional value, how tilapia is grown, the fact that it is, in fact, good for you, and it is a wonderful fish that's consumed all over the world. But we're seeing the changes. Everybody in tilapia farming now, they do not have enough tilapia to satisfy the market. And anecdotally, I always tell people, once you see tilapia reach a dance, I'm gonna roast tilapia and everything there, it means it has gotten into the Jamaican subculture, right? And that's what's happening now. So we're very, very happy for that because, again, we look at all that's happening in the world. You spoke about that. We have to consistently think about how will we feed ourselves? What are we going to consume? If everything starts to get extremely expensive, if you have to depend more on your own resources, aquaculture is the answer. So growing your own fish and having that to satisfy your protein needs is the answer.
Absolutely. And do we have an idea of the amount of fishers now that have structured their operation, registered, now a part of the system, can be now accounted for? Do we have a number of that?
Let me tell you one of the success stories, and I was happy to be able to share it yesterday. Because sometimes when you implement changes, you probably don't update to say whether it's working or not, or you don't assess. So a few years ago, when I just became minister, and I went around listening to the fishers, they used to complain bitterly, and I see State Minister Witter is here, who, although his constituency doesn't have a fishing beach, he has adopted a number of them. Or they have adopted him like Alligator Pond. They treat with him like he's their member of parliament. The fishers used to complain bitterly about how long it would take them to get their licenses, whether they were new or whether they were renewing their applications. So with the help of the Ministry of Finance and the Transformation Unit, we fully digitized that service for them to be able to literally stay at their fishing beach and apply for their license, apply for their renewal. And we're seeing a great uptake. We used to have about 20% renewal rate. We're now above 50%. And these people are using the IRIFIN's platform. Again, when our Coast Guards go out and they check people, we used to have a lot of people being found fishing without the relevant documentation, like their licenses. Now, the report is that 78% of the people who are stopped have their documents in order. So we're taking a big step in the right direction. A number of people are using the platform, and the big plus, it used to take about 5 months for you to get your license. Now, maximum 5 days. Right? Maximum. And you order it online, you pay, and we send it out to the office and you collect it. Simple as that. So we are seeing those positive steps. And again, one of the things that I would have announced in Parliament yesterday is that we're taking a major move come September. Clearly, under our Fisheries Act, there are a number of offenses, right? And we don't want anybody to commit these offenses, but we are also changing how we treat with these offenses, some of them. So a couple of offenses will now come under a process where our fishers will be able to be ticketed for the offense instead of automatically summoned to go to court, right? So clearly, you commit the offense, you get a ticket, you can pay the ticket, and then you move on, hopefully not to commit again, right? But instead of taking the fisher out, clogging up the courts with that matter, we can treat with a number of those matters. So come September, working with the Ministry of National Security, the NFA, and our TAJ, we should have that system operationalized.
And as we head into another hurricane season, how are we preparing our fishers?
Every time I hear about the hurricane season, but I guess now I see it as you have said it. It's not something to fear, it's something to prepare for, right? And I really want to commend our fishers. We saw a big change with Hurricane Melissa, where a number of them heeded the warnings and brought in their boats very early. And even though so many boats were damaged, it could have been much worse. Much more people could be lost at sea. So we have already started the preparation. Clearly, we are now building out infrastructure and trying to build back infrastructure, but building that back better than before. So that, one of the realities we have in fisheries is that a lot of our infrastructure is by the sea. So we have to look at our designs. We have to look at the setback. We have to ensure that when we build these back, that they can withstand what we are seeing now, these weather events with these massive storm surges. Again, we're doing significant training. We've set up a radio system where we communicate with our officials. We want more of them to have their GPS, to have their safety gear, to do the safety at sea training. That is something that we're now institutionalized in the NFA. So we are preparing for the next hurricane season. We hope it will be a very easy season, but regardless, we're preparing.
Absolutely. If persons are just joining us, thank you so much for doing so. We are here with our Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, the Honorable Floyd Green. We have just completed our discussion talking about fisheries and also on mining as we're now crossing over into agriculture. And Minister, one of the things that I think a lot of persons were excited about was not just a 3-year plan or even a 5-year plan, but a 10-year national agricultural development plan. Something you said, the most honorable Prime Minister asked you to really prioritize, and now you're saying you have a draft for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say ask, I would say directed.
Okay.
Because when the Prime Minister asks is a direction to action. No, you know, it's in keeping with the Prime Minister's approach to the future of Jamaica. He believes that we have to plan the future of Jamaica. And we have to take longer term plans to ensure that everybody can see the direction we're heading in. People can make their decisions based on that direction. We can mobilize the private sector around that direction. And this is why an agricultural development plan is so important. And many people have spoken about it. I mean, there have been editorials saying that agriculture needs a long-term, at least a 2-term plan, so that it spans a term of government, right? So that everybody coalesces around the direction. So we got some support from the FAA to bring in the FAO, to bring in a consultant to work with us to pull together our ideas. So I want everybody to be clear.
Yeah.
This is our plan. This is Jamaica's plan. And the FAO is just providing technical support to streamline our thoughts, processes, and idea. We would have had consultations, we would have had workshops, and now we have a draft 10-year national development plan. And when I sat with the team, we said, let us not move from draft to finalizing the plan without allowing our stakeholders to be able to comment on it, to give their feedback, because again, this is a Jamaica plan. So we have posted the draft plan on our website. That's moa.gov.jm. People can go on, they can review. It is draft. So, I mean, we do know more work is needed, but we want your feedback. We're also going to have a workshop next week where we will bring in our main stakeholders, private sectors, the JAS, our farmers groups, that we will present the plan to them. And we're going to have one of our main representatives from the FAO for the region that will come in, and we will present the plan, we will go through it, and we will take their feedback and use that to finalize the plan. So we want to present this plan at the end of the second quarter of this, our new financial year, and then that will guide our direction.
Yeah.
And everybody will be able to look and say, this is the direction that agriculture is headed in Jamaica.
I know you say it's a draft plan, Minister, and I know you probably can't go into everything, but could you just highlight some of the things that we'll definitely see if we go on there to look at it?
No, so it does look at most of our challenges. You know, one of the things, the challenges in agriculture are fairly clear, right? But the plans pulls it together under various themes. And I think that is the structure of it is something that I like. So whether we're talking about resilience, whether we're talking about efficient production systems, you will see four major themes that are brought out through the plan. But it will also deal with cross-cutting elements like research, like technology, like prairie elasticity, like the agricultural workforce. What are we going to do over the next 10 years to ensure that we have labor needed for agriculture, or to ensure that we have the equipment, the technology needed to drive modern agriculture in Jamaica? So the plan confronts those issues and outlines a strategy towards treating with them. So I won't say any more because I want people to go and not to just browse through it, to read through the plan and give us your ideas.
It's on the ministry's website.
It's on the ministry's website.
Right.
And you can email us. We have an email, nadp moa.gov.jm, that you can send us your feedback and we will take that into account.
And I'm very happy that you mentioned the technology because, you know, traditionally we have a mindset, we have a perspective as to how it is that agriculture and farming should look like, how it should operate. But we are moving forward and we are going forward in an advancing world. And the implementation now of technology support, AI, etc., to maximize production. How are we, you know, positioning ourselves as a developing country to be a part of that transformation globally?
I think one of the things that you will see more and more of is the infusion of technology. And I have to commend the RADA team that has been very bullish on this. So, you know, a year or so ago, we spoke about the RADA mobile app. If you have not downloaded the RADA mobile application, do it now. It has significant information, whether you are a commercial farmer or you are a backyard gardener, right? You can get information. Plus, for farmers who are listening, you can literally on the app now apply for benefits. And you know what that does, Debbie? That gives us the opportunity to track what is happening. So we can say, Farmer John Doe applied on this date. Was he responded to? Did he get those benefits? What's the follow-up? We now have, I'm going to call it a paper trail, but we now have a technology trail of that. So that's important. But I was able to announce yesterday some innovative tools that we're coming with. So one is about production, right? And we're going to use the data that we have out there to, and not going to, we've created, through RADA, created a tool where we can map production, which will allow farmers to literally be able to go on and to see how many people in their area planting tomato, how many people in the parish, how many people in the country, so that before you plant tomato and then you come into the glut, and not only how many people, what stage of production are there? And then it will also be an AI-driven tool that we can use to forecast so we can better plan our distribution channels. So that's one. We're also working with enhancing our agricultural marketing systems. You know, price is always an issue. People want to know what is the price out there. We have a jamming system. We're elevated that with a logistics mapping. Again, another platform that we will put out to the public so you can literally go on and see what price are things being traded at where. So you can use that to make better decisions. And the MPs were very excited when I unveiled to them yesterday that MPs will now have a tool that they can see what is happening in their constituency. They can send in their beneficiary listings. They can literally send a message to their parish manager. They can look at the farm roads in their constituency. Which one is in need of repair? How much farmers does it serve? Which one was recently repaired? How much kilometers was done? So that ultimately we're using these tools so people can make better decisions all over.
Absolutely. You've also mentioned yesterday, but didn't manage to kind of go into it some more, the Caribbean Week of Agriculture and Jamaica's leadership role in hosting it here. When is it happening? What's going to be happening? What can people expect?
Yeah, so one of the big announcements that we saved for today is that Jamaica is hosting the 20th staging of the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. And that will be from September 27 to October 2, right here in Jamaica. The Caribbean Week of Agriculture is the critical event around agriculture in the region. It's where policymakers gather. It's what shapes the agenda on a regional basis. We look at things like our 25 by 25 plus 5, reducing extra regional imports into the CARICOM region, and we make those plans there. And Jamaica continues to be a leader in regional agriculture. And this gives us an opportunity to really showcase that leadership. So we're going to invite the entire region. We expect to have a bumper crowd. We expect to have basically all the ministers of agriculture from across the region. We'll be hosting them here. And we're looking for people to come and partner. Now is the time for people to partner with us, reach out to us, because we want to show the world a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure that agro-processing will be a big part of the agenda there, because strengthening Jamaica in that regard is very important as we continue to build forward, right?
Absolutely. Agro-processing is a fundamental direction for us. In fact, you talk about the plan, it's one of the areas that the plan speaks about. And we have to do more. We have to do more to sow those seeds in people. We have to do more to help our agro-processors expand. And that's why the government is building out agro-processing space. Not for the government to operate, but so that our private sector can come in and operate these spaces and expand what they do. That's why the government is trying to work through Agro-Invest Corporation to provide more space for our agro-processors to build out. And we're seeing some good responses, like Walker's Wood, who are now as a part of our Panassus Agri-Park, CB Group expanding and committed $1 billion in poultry and in pork and looking to set up some infrastructure on the agri-parks. We want to do more of that. But at the base level, RADA has to get more involved. And it's something I've said to the team. We have RADA incubators. We want to upgrade those incubators so that people can really go to our incubator. You will have the necessary equipment. And if you have an idea, Debbie, you want to do some recipe formulation, you want to do some small manufacturing, processing, you can do it there. And then we have an agri-mart that can also help sell your products. So we're giving you the throughput. But the other thing that I've said to the RADA team, and for our fast food chains who are listening, and for our agro-processors who are listening, the home economics unit of RADA have developed a lot of recipes. Because every time there's a glut, they come up with a new recipe to utilize that product. I've said to the team, why aren't we commercializing these recipes? Why don't we bring in our fast food chains and say, look, yesterday at Parliament they had Irish potato punch. People say, Irish potato punch, it was phenomenal. Nothing was left. But doing it at that small scale doesn't help. If we can get one of our fast food outlets to take this as a menu item and then have that throughput, or an agro-processor to make this into a drink that is then sold on the market, that will go a far way in moving excess produce and also driving agro-processing. So we are going to take a holistic approach to treat with agro-processing, and we're going to have a lot of that on display at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture, because when it comes to agro-processing, Jamaica is the leader of the region in that.
Really? We are.
We are.
We are.
Our sauces have taken over the world, right? Just look at what has happened, whether it be Spur Tree Walkers with Grace, right? Just look at how we have started to infiltrate and dominate the shelves in the United States and across the region. Look at what we're doing now in value addition in relation to our poultry, our wings, our nuggets, those things that are done here in Jamaica and are now all over the Caribbean. We are.
And what about closing the gap a little bit more about, with the smaller scale farmers and getting their products to bigger commercial institutions?
Yeah, part of what we're trying to do is to ensure that there are direct contracts, right? We've been saying to our commercial institutions, allow the team at the ministry to do the hand-holding, to pair you with the farmers. I was at the Jamaica Observer Food Awards New Product Initiative, and I was interrogating some of the new products and the owners and saying, how much of this is local? What's the challenge? And I said to them, if you are looking for, let's say, sorrel, let us pair you with a farmer who will plant directly for you. And you enter into a long-term arrangement. You indicate how much, what are the quantities, what is the price, and he knows he has a secure market. You know you have a secure supply. We have to do more of that. And we want more of our small farmers to plant to our market, not to plant and then wonder where the market is. So we have marketing officers at RADA. We have a whole unit at the ministry that can help in that regard. So that's going to be a major drive of the ministry this year.
And is that the same conversation that we are also having with the hotels, the ones that have been closed down and are about to reopen, the ones that are actually now being built?
So one of the things I didn't mention is that we did complete a hotel demand study last year. I expect that when the Minister of Tourism speaks, he will speak about it, because we have worked with him to look at the food demands for the hotels. And clearly that is a step to then say, what can we satisfy? We definitely want to do the same thing, long-term contracts. And we've been saying to the hotels, move from 3 months, 6 months contracts. Let's do some 2-year, 3-year. You are not going anywhere, or farmers are not going anywhere. it gives us the ability to plan better, to be more bankable, to be able to get the financing needed to drive the production and get the economies of scale to serve you better. So I know the Minister of Tourism has been speaking about the Local First initiative. I know he'll talk more about it in his sectoral. We're working together on that.
Love that. Love that. Minister, you spoke about 95 greenhouses yesterday, and you also mentioned about the agri-parks as well and what's been happening, even with persons who they would have received or they would have gotten inside the parks. They have not been utilizing the space. You know, what's been happening there?
Yes, a couple of things. I'm very happy that we are really taking protected agriculture seriously and not just in talk, right? So this government this year is going to be spending $800 million on building out 95 greenhouses across 4 parishes. That's our largest outlay of protected agriculture in our history. So places like Moko and Clarendon, I know you are very passionate about Clarendon.
Clarendon for sure,
right?
sir.
St. Anne, South Manchester, St. Catherine, all of those areas are going to have greenhouses, right? So we're very excited about that. But outside of that, it's all about stabilizing production. So our agri-parks are critical to that. So we have, as a government, set a target that we're going to have at least 1 agri-park per parish. And I was happy to be able to update the House that the Agro-Invest Corporation is actively working on this, and we're making some moves. So already in St. Mary, we've identified where the agri-park will be. New Pen, we already have a well that has been dug in that agri-park through the NIC. We're now working on the pressurized designs. So that will be one of our agri-parks. In Portland, we have a production zone that's we're going to transform into agri-park. So that's Lower Later. Very excited about that. But then there are some places that we're not so far advanced, but we have identified the potential spots. So St. James, Mount Pelion. Very, very important. In Trelawney, Long Pond, right? And we're doing some feasibility studies now to see what will it take to establish the agri-parks. Because our agri-parks now can't just be a space that we call an agri-park. Has to have road, has to have storage, right? Has to have irrigation so that it can really be the backbone of production. And it has to have utilization. Yeah. So if you come into an agri-park, and everybody who comes into our agri-park signs a lease that tells us that they're going to produce X over what time. If you are not doing that, not living up to your side of the bargain, then quite frankly, we will have to take back that land. And I have said to the Agro-Invest Corporation, zero tolerance. Let's move on that. And thankfully, they've been moving. So last year, we took back 120 acres and provided it to other people who wanted to be in the agri-parks. We have about 280 acres that we have identified that if the people don't act upon them, we're going to remove that. Because again, Debbie, it doesn't make sense that we have the land not being used, but when I go out or Minister Witter goes out, somebody comes to us and says, we want some land to do some farming. So utilization is key.
Absolutely, especially when you're looking to introduce new avocados and apples in the market, yes?
I realize people like that because, you know, I never ever get to talk about the new bananas.
And
right?
new bananas?
I never get to talk about the new bananas. But
larger than the ones that we have right now?
Well, more disease tolerant and resistant, right? Climate tolerant, disease resistant. Very, very important. It's something that we consistently work on through entities like the Banana Board, right? But and since I'm on bananas are coming back, guys, right? Don't fret, right?
And plantains as well, sir.
Lady Coney had told me, you know, normally it's about 9 months, right? You can count where we are now. We're seeing some early signs, and it's coming back. And planting, I know the planting lovers. But one of the things that we have to do is look at how do we commercialize these fruit trees, right? One, we have to move them from being seasonal. Because if you have a supply and if you're exporting, and we've been doing trade export workshops, right, with people who want to export, saying to them, this is the process to export. But one of the critical things is consistency. Because if I come to you and you say you are going to supply me with avocados, with pear, I don't want to hear that, boy, the season done and I can't get any, right? So we are looking at varieties that can be grown right around the year. The Haas variety is the most popular variety in the world. something that we're now looking to grow out. And we have 3 other varieties, and I want to thank the Trees That Feed Foundation. They made that connection with DOMREP. We sent a team to the DOMREP just to look at their processes to bring back the planting material. Now we're growing that out. The other one that we're very excited about is a young lady started some work in her agri-park with an apple variety from Kenya, the Wambuga apple. Now, if you look at it, you would think it's what we call the American apple, right? But we know the American apple doesn't grow in this climate properly. So the Wambugo is the answer. So again, we're looking at these things. We're looking to build them out so that we can, again, substitute some of what we import and also tap into what would be a ready-made export market if we were to get this at scale. And that's why I'm saying we are going to be focusing a lot on fruit trees. We want to do 3,000 acres by 2035. We want to ensure that every single household in Jamaica has at least one fruit tree by 2033. Those are things that we are serious about because, again, very important for our food security and also just for resources. Ackee, coconut, breadfruit, all of these things can make millions, are making millions. So we need more. So we're going to drive it.
And how has the tower in your backyard been doing? Because I know that you've posted it.
My tower has been doing extremely well.
What have you produced from it?
All right. I feel good about this part because it made me feel like a real farmer, right? Like Darren Grant from JS can't talk to me again because I go out, I reap. So I've done a lot of scallion. In fact, I've had so much scallion that I've gone into agro-processing.
You have?
I now have my own brand of green seasoning, right? That I have formulated.
What is the name of it? Green?
Green.
Okay.
That I've formulated at home. We do a lot of cilantro, so I've learned cilantro keeps growing, right? You clip it, you use it, it's gone again, right? I do a lot of basil, same thing with the basil. Basil is good. We do a lot of lettuce, right? So it's more green leafy vegetables. I've tried some things, it hasn't worked, right? Because you have to experiment and see how it works out. Some of them don't work, but so far it has been going very, very well. And I've always said to people, backyard gardening gives you a different appreciation of farmers. So we will always have a backyard gardening program, if only for that basis. Because when you go out to purchase now, and you're purchasing local, you appreciate more what farmers go through to bring their crops to fruition. So we're going to be distributing 5,000 backyard gardening kits this year. One, clearly to have people ensure that they're planting a little bit of what they consume, but also so they get a greater appreciation of our agriculture sector. And I would say to people, try out the aeroponic towers. Why I love it is because it's easy, right? So if you don't have a lot of time, it's literally plug and play, right? Plug it in, and it hasn't done a lot on the electricity bill at all. Right, so that's another thing that I look out for. Right, so it's so far so good. So far, so
I'm
good.
very happy you mentioned that, Minister, because I think about all the buildings, the real estate that's going up around the urban spaces. Shouldn't that be a part of what's mandated? Have a small green area.
Well, definitely green areas, but it's Jamaica is very difficult oftentimes to mandate, right? You have to have significant buy-in before you mandate, right? Definitely the green spaces is something that I know that at the developmental level and the approval level, they have already said you have to have green spaces in your development. But on the agricultural side, what we're trying to do is to bring these technologies to market. The private sectors bring them to market. We just bring them to light. Now we have multiple players in the aeroponic space, right? And to show it how it can work, and to give you the technical capacity to work with it. The beauty, the first tower farm that I visited is here in Kingston, right? In a regular community that you wouldn't know that they're doing high-level farming where they're supplying supermarkets from what they grow in not even a quarter acre, not even 1/8, right? So we are showing that these things can work. So you're right. And I think more companies in their spaces need to look at how can you set up some towers on your roof? How can you now use solar to run those aeroponic towers and then put that back into your canteen, right? All of these things reduce dependency. And that's what we're about.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, aeroponics and aquaponics, these are all climate smart agricultural, systems. And as we are preparing ourselves because there's no going around it, we are going to be faced with another season. In terms of the integration of these technologies, are we really and truly paying enough attention to how it is that this can actually be a solution for a larger scale?
Yeah, we get in there.
Yeah.
We get in there. And different technologies have different uptakes. So, for example, we've been at drip irrigation for a little while now. I can definitely say we've reached critical mass. In other words, the small farmers appreciate drip irrigation and are utilizing it. Once they have access to it, they're trying to get access to it because they understand that it reduces their water consumption and increases their productivity and clearly increases their profitability. So a number of the technologies are taking root. There are other things we have to do. So under our Climate Smart Adapt Jamaica program, one of the things that we're looking to do is to design a greenhouse that can withstand Category 5 hurricanes. A lot of the greenhouses that we have, those designs are taken from countries that don't have these issues, right? So, we have to look at, should we be doing retractable roof greenhouses? Should we be doing more modular greenhouses that can be, assembled easily and deassembled easily? We are putting some resources to design that, and then we will use some of those resources. I think we have 1.5 billion over the next 5 years under that element to build out these Category 5 resistant, tolerant greenhouses. So we are, and a lot of what we're doing now is training. And I always say to my farmers, when you hear AgriInvest or when you hear RADA or when you hear the Banana Board offering training, go for the training. Because ultimately, part of what we're doing is training our farmers to treat with these new climate realities. We're seeing the resurgence slowly of our cocoa industry. And that's largely because we have moved to a model where the farmers look at their cultural practices, they take the training, they get certification, and they implement that, and now they're fighting back the frosty pod, and we're seeing cocoa growing again. And that's important for our chocolate industry. So, yes, we are trying to ensure that we institutionalize these climate-smart methodologies with our farmers.
Yeah, you mentioned drip irrigation, sir, and I know irrigation overall has just been a concern for many Jamaicans. I mean, how are we going to be strengthening that?
It's probably the biggest success of this government on the agricultural side, what we've done in terms of our outlay for irrigation. But we still have a lot to do. But we've spent billions of dollars building out irrigation systems like Parnassus, which was Sugarland, 700 acres, that we've now transformed into an agri-park that now has irrigation. We're doing that also with Amity and Bridgepen, another basically 800 acres that we're going to be transforming again in irrigation. And Essex Valley, I got a wonderful video yesterday when I finished my presentation. That was the highlight. When I sat down, they showed me that they have put in the pump and the water is now flowing. Right? So at least one of the wells now, we're seeing the water come out. So we had done the pipes already, right? We were waiting on the pumps. Pumps have been installed, now we're doing the testing. So the farmers in Essex Valley, very, very soon, you will have your water to do what you love. So we're going to continue to expand irrigation. Our goal is over the next 5 years to get to at least 50% of our arable land. We're going to do that through Pedro Plains, which is massive, over 3,000 hectares of land taking water from the Black River. We have some resources to continue that work this year. A lot of the work now is behind the scenes to prepare for when we will go into the heavy infrastructure, laying of the pipes. So that work is happening now. We're going to be doing 4 small irrigation that will cover about 2,000 hectares, including like New Pen, where we've dug the well. So irrigation is going to be a major drive of this government, because what the new climate has shown us is access to water is non-negotiable. And the other thing that I should mention, the National Irrigation Commission is also looking at new methodologies. Should we be really now looking at desalination as a methodology to get irrigation, or using grey water and doing the proper treatment to ensure that we have sufficient water. Because, yes, Debbie, we are the land of wood and water, but, you know, everybody is trying to use the water. We have to get more creative as we move forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I could not close out this discussion this morning without asking about our bee farmers, because I think their importance really came to the fore after Melissa, especially in the West.
All over. You know, every time our bee farmers always say I don't speak about them enough. And they're fundamental to our ecosystem. You need bees to have an excellent agricultural ecosystem. So definitely a number of them were displaced. In Hurricane Melissa, we provided some direct support. We provided over 5,000 bags of bee sugar to our farmers, and I know they appreciated that because, again, to keep their bees alive, keep them working, very, very important. But we're going to be doing more. You know, we spent a lot of resources building out our apiculture unit at Bodles, ensuring the lab has the capacity to test for everything that affects our bees, and we're going to go on a rapid program to expand apiculture in Jamaica. So bee farmers, we're going to continue to support you. Very, very important. And for young people looking to get into apiculture, touch base with us.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, young people, yesterday you announced scholarships as well for young people.
Yeah. You know, it's an exciting time, you know. A lot of young people are coming into agriculture. And, I mean, we're seeing, you know, over the last few years, we've seen 4,000 additional youth register. Yesterday, we tabled our green paper of our youth policy, which will guide what we do about youth. And again, I've come to appreciate in government, you need documentation. Because it's all good and well, one minister is here, we won't be here forever. So you have to have documents in place that will guide, that will provide structure. So the youth policy we're very proud about. We're going to be giving scholarships to the top boy and girl in each parish. The top agricultural student. We lose too much of our agricultural students. That's the reality. So you come across somebody in some other field, and they say, boy, you know, I was the best in my school in agriculture. And you're saying, but where are you in the bank? You know, come on, let's get back to agriculture. So we want to give them tertiary scholarships to go on to Case, go on to Ebony Park, to continue in agriculture so that we're keeping the best and the brightest as we expand agriculture. So that's big for us.
Thank you so much, Minister. We're about to open the floor for questions. Before we do that, Minister, as you mentioned documentation and the importance of being documented, I know something was asked of you last year about the help and the resources that are able to be accessed if you are not a registered farmer. We are advocating, as a registered farmer, we are advocating for persons to be registered. But let's talk about that, you know, about persons who may think that because they're not a registered farmer, there is no help to be accessed.
So, you know, Debbie, you have to become registered. That's the long and short of it, right? I know there are a number of people who farm who are not registered. But more and more, unless we're able to prove that the support is going to somebody who is a farmer, and we can't just say, yes, this man farm. They're going to say, what is the proof? And the proof has to be registration. So I know sometimes in the past, farmers get frustrated. They don't think it makes sense. They say rather take too long. They say they go and they apply and they don't get the ID. Those are real issues that we're fixing. So we're making it easier. We now have a RADA Connect program where they go around the country, try to issue your IDs. We will do more of bringing your IDs back to you. We know time is money for our farmers, but you have to be registered. You also have to be registered because we are getting more serious on enforcement and on treaty with prey larceny. And it is going to take registered farmers to trade and provide receipts so that we know that the man that we stop with whatever he's carrying is not a thief. How are we going to know? We can't just listen to a man and say, yeah, man, me go check Nigel and buy it from Nigel. That don't help, right? You will have to show some proof. So I'm saying to everybody, get registered. Plus, if you want to access financing, you know, farming is a business, and you have to do the preliminaries. So there's no excuse. Get registered.
Thank you for that, sir. Again, there is no excuse. Please do get registered. Are there any questions on the floor? We'd like to allow for anyone who'd like to ask a question. Yes, we have one there. We ask that you just identify yourself for us, please, and where you are representing.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Sashana Small from the Gleaner. Minister, I have about 2 questions for you. In your presentation yesterday, you spoke about the Middle East conflict and how it is impacting our farmers here. But I want you to be a little more specific. Can you tell us if the closure of the Strait of Hormuz have had any impact on our ability to access fertilizers here in Jamaica? And secondly, I had spoken to some fishermen earlier, maybe last month, I believe, and they were complaining about the costs of fuel and how it is impacting their livelihood and how they had to, get creative in terms of going out less and so forth. So I want you to tell me if the ministry is seeing any impact on our fishers because of the Middle East conflict, and what the ministry is doing to help alleviate any such pressures.
Yeah, so good questions. In relation to fertilizer, there isn't an access problem, right? So there has been no downturn in supply of fertilizer because of the conflicts. However, the reality is that the inputs that go into fertilizer are things that are traded on the world market, and the prices have gone up. So, for example, we've seen increases in nitrogen prices, we've seen increases in potassium prices, and that makes an impact. So while we have access, there has been increased price. And we have seen some of that being passed on to our farmers. In fact, we would have met with our major fertilizer supplier, and they have cauterized that as much as possible. So when we look at the extent of the increase on the world market, that has not yet been passed on to our farmers. So that is a positive thing thus far. But as the conflict goes on, it gets more difficult. So, for example, if the prices have gone up 40%, that hasn't been replicated here. Prices may have gone up by 10% here thus far. But that is something that we consistently work with our suppliers. The other thing that we work with our suppliers to do is to look at new formulations that can keep the price at a certain level. Our farmers are used to certain formulations with certain quantities of elements, yes? That is not necessarily the best formulation depending on what you're planting. So what you're hearing more and more is that our fertilizer companies work with us to develop a yam fertilizer, a banana fertilizer, right? So that you're getting specifically the nutrients that that crop needs and not the nutrients that you would be wasted. So you end up now maximizing your spend. And we're going to continue to do that. Additionally, we've had a very good relationship with the government and the people of Morocco, right? And we have, in the past, reached out to them to provide support for us in terms of fertilizer, and they're going to provide some support for us during this time in terms of fertilizer, which will go to our farmers. So we're taking a multifaceted approach to treat with the fertilizer issue, which is the main input and which clearly, our farmers are very cost sensitive to that. In relation to our fishers, clearly, the increase in fuel affects our fishers. And there has been an increase in fuel all over the world and here in Jamaica. What we're trying to do is a number of things, because sometimes there are added costs in your access to fuel. So one of the things I spoke about in the sectoral is that there are parishes where we don't have fuel depots. What it means is that the fisherman has to travel further, right, which puts an additional cost on getting fuel. So we're establishing fuel depots in those parishes, starting with Trelawney and Portland, and we're going to be looking at some novel solutions, including mobile solutions, right? So again, the closer you bring it to the fisherman, the cheaper it is because you don't have those transportation costs. Not much we can do on the actual cost of fuel right now, but part of what we've been doing is training our fishers in terms of, one, the engines that they're using, ensuring that they're more efficient, helping our fishers in that regard, helping them in relation to some of the other implements that we have more control over, right, to reduce the cost in terms of things like fishing wire, right, that will help them. So ultimately we look at the pot, and we might not be able to affect the fuel price, but if we can reduce the cost for your fishing wire, then overall you will see a reduction in your costs. That's the approach that we're taking.
Minister, do you have a timeline for the establishment of those depots that you mentioned?
I have given some robust timelines to the NFA. I'm sure they don't want me to speak about it. The first one we expect to get done in the next 2 months, right? That's the Trelawney one. If we are able to get all the paperwork done around the mobile solutions, I expect that over the next 6 months we will roll those out. And that will be much easier. So I've said 2 because that is the base. But if we can get the mobile done, then we can do a lot more. Because then we don't have to think about parishes. We can think about fishing beaches that have a lot of fishers because you can bring it closer to source, right? So that's the time frame we're working on.
Okay. All right. You have another question? Anyone? Anybody else have? Okay, we have a question there from, we'll come back to you. 1 second for us, please. We have a question there around the back, TVJ.
Morning, Minister. There are 5,000 farmers to 1 RADA officers. What is the update to increase the officer island-wide? And another one, don't answer that one yet, sir. What is the status of the RADA offices 6 months after the hurricane?
Yeah, two good questions. All right, one, what we're doing in relation to decrease the ratio is we're actually mobilizing assistant extension officers across almost all our parishes, right? We already have them on the establishment spaces for assistant extension officers, and what we're looking to do is in the areas where the ratio are the worst, where we have the most farmers to extension officers, to put those assistant extension officers in place to work with those farmers. That is until we can redo the RADA structure to get more extension services. The reality, however, is that we probably won't get to the 1 to 250 or 500, so we have to use the technology. If our farmers do things like download the RADA mobile app, then they can take a picture of the problem that they're having, send it to their extension officer, and get an update in real time. They can book an appointment with their extension officer. So instead of the extension showing up and you're not there or you're waiting, these mobile applications will help us to provide extension services without physically having an officer visit the farm. And we think that's very, very important in moving forward. So that's the approach that we're taking. The RADA offices, let me ask Mr. Edmondson, since he's here, in terms of the update on the RADA offices that were damaged in Hurricane Melissa. Come.
We're having a microphone being delivered to it. There you go. Go ahead, sir.
Morning. So across parishes such as St. James, St. Elizabeth, some areas in Manchester, and St. Anne. St. Anne is around, say, 60% complete. St. James, 95% complete. In St. Elizabeth, our extension area office there is fully completed. And also part of Westmoreland, there's one office that was damaged that is fully complete. Another office that is around 40% completed. So that would take care of some of the major offices that were damaged. So there are some offices that we have not yet touched because of maybe we feel that we should prioritize these ones that we have worked on thus far. So in the near future, say this new financial year, we'll be touching some more of these offices.
And one of the things that Mr. Edmondson didn't say is, for example, in an area like St. James, where the office was devastated, and that is 95% complete now, it doesn't mean that we didn't put in temporary operational structures. So in some of these offices, we have put in temporary operational structures. We've done that in St. James. We've used container-based solutions so that the staff does have somewhere. We've actually have them occupy also part of the incubator space so that ultimately the farmers are still served while we fix the offices. So that's very, very important.
Thank you for your question. Do we have another one? You have another one from you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Minister, thanks. There's an onion glut being reported. Is the ministry still approving license to import onions? And one more. What are the crops still being imported that the ministry think can be grown locally with the right proper resources?
So the ministry hasn't approved license to import onions since last year, right? We don't approve licenses for the importation of onion during the onion season. Hasn't happened, won't happen under this minister. So oftentimes when people see even imported onions on the market, two things. Clearly, some of our imported onions that would have gotten a license last year and that we would have brought them in probably early this year, they have faced some of the demand challenges in terms of a downturn in demand. So they weren't able to move them as quickly as possible. And that has faced our onion farmers as well, where we have had a bumper onion crop, but there is still a downturn in demand. In other words, if we still have, let us say, 20% of our hotel rooms that have not yet come back on during the winter season, that would give us a certain amount of consumption. When you take that out of the market space, then you have a challenge. Onion is one of the things that is heavily consumed right across the board, and we've been seeing pressures in that regard. So we've seen downturn in demand for onions, in potatoes, most areas, and that's why you've seen oversupply, largely because of a downturn in demand. So no, we haven't been importing. Most of the items that we were forced right after the hurricane to import, for example, like eggs, right? We've cut out those imports from February, and we are now just depending on our own supply, and I want to commend the egg farmers for bouncing back as quickly as they did, and they were the ones who came to us and said, import eggs, right? We never get up and say we want to import eggs. We take these things from the farmers, and the people who import the eggs are largely people who produce the eggs, right? So we've been doing that. Our vegetable lines, we've cut that from December because we saw with the work of RADA and the farmers that we were going to have a massive bounce back in vegetables, so we never needed to do that. There are still pressures on some areas. There are still pressures on things like cantaloupe. There are still pressures on some areas. Some things we don't import, like banana. We're not going to import banana because the threat of disease is too high. Now, to your other question, there are some areas that we believe we can still do better at. So we have an Irish potato program. It has fluctuated over the years. We have to get more consistent to be able to reduce the importation numbers. Onions, we're doing extremely well on in terms of reducing the amount of imports. We believe with one announcement that I made yesterday, where we were going to put in this year 3 commercial, semi-commercial onion dryers in our onion producing areas. We believe that with that, we will be able to now better dry and store the onions. We can get closer to completely reducing our onion imports, and that's what we're going for. I have identified that one of the big areas that we import has to do with animal feed. So oftentimes people say, boy, the food import bill is going up, but as we produce more chickens, right, we're going to import more animal feed, and it's going to drive up the food import bill because it's considered a part of the food import bill. We have to get more local production of some of those things. We've tried sorghum in the past, hasn't gone so well. There's a project now to look back at it to see if now with new technology, if it is possible to grow more of it. We also have to look at substitutes. What can we use locally to do more fish feed? We have a project with the NFA where we're looking at local substitute for fish feed. All those things are important. So I won't give you a one item. Is going to be a compendium of things that we will have to replace, small items, to really drive down our import bill.
Thank you. Glenn, I do believe you had another question. And is there anyone else on the floor with a question? Anyone? All right, please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning again. Minister, earlier in your presentation, you spoke about your trip to China to speak with GISCO and the potential reopening of Alpart. So I wanted to ask you, in these new negotiations that you'll be doing, how is the government going to ensure that these mining companies minimize against environmental degradation in the process? And, we've seen the impact this had on South Manchester, for example, and on farmers and so forth. So in these new negotiations, what responsibilities will the government, bestow on this company for land rehabilitation and so forth?
Yeah, so, again, thank you. Very, very good question. Right now, there isn't necessarily need for new responsibilities. There's need to enforce the responsibilities on the books. And I've said to the Commissioner of Mines, we're taking a zero-tolerance approach to the reclamation provisions that we have. Once you are completed mining, you're supposed to reclaim the land in a certain time frame. And to show you how serious we are, Alpat is not operating now. But because we've taken that zero-tolerance approach, they had to start reclamation last year, because they had a backlog of reclamation. And we've said to them, it has to be done. It is by law. It should have been done before. Whether you're operational or not, it has to be done. So we are taking that approach to all our mining companies. So you will see greater environmental stewardship in that regard. Additionally, we launched a Mining Matters application that allows citizens to in real time complain about any offenses that these mining companies are creating. It's literally an app that you download. You can file a complaint. Clearly, we can track the complaint. We can raise it with the mining company. We can tell you what is the outcome of that. So that really puts power at the fingertips of our community members to put these issues out there. Outside of that, we have developed modules to repurpose former bauxite lands. So one of the things that I probably never mentioned, a lot of the greenhouses that are going to be built on former bauxite mined lands. So we've developed a model that we started in Content in Manchester, land that was mined. And what we did in that instance, we said to the bauxite company, do not reclaim one of the pits. We're going to use that pit for water collection. So we put in a pond liner, collect the water, use that water that is harvested to drive the greenhouse. And we're doing that in all of these clusters for these 95 greenhouses. So the last part of what you said is to ensure that there is life after mining, that mining bauxite doesn't put an end to the land, right? That we can do other things with it so that we get a win-win, because ultimately we still need the US $612 million that we got from bauxite exports last year. We still need the investment of US $300 million that we got, and in terms of employment numbers from our mining industry. Right now, our mining industry is fundamental to our economic survival. So we have to find a way for them to do what they're supposed to do under the Act, right? For our citizens to be empowered through something like the Mining Mobile app, and also to repurpose bauxite lands to do other things. So we get a double bite of the cherry.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much for that question. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? If there are no other questions, Minister, as we wrap up, any last things you want to say?
Well, one, I really want to thank our farmers. I want to thank our fishers. I want to thank our miners. We've been through a lot. The last 2 years have been extremely challenging at every level. But I think we have shown that we are truly the heart and soul of Jamaica. And we epitomize the Jamaican spirit that never say die, that once there is life, there is hope, that we will go again. The ministry that I try to lead has to lead in that spirit, right? And that's what we're doing. We're not retreating. We're not going back. We are growing forward. And we're ensuring that we enter into a new era of transformation and resilience. And we're now outlining a blueprint to create a better Jamaica. And we believe that through agriculture, if we are able to feed ourselves, through fisheries, where we're able to reduce our dependency on external supply, and through mining, where we do more value addition, that All of these things tap into the rural community. And if our rural communities do better, our country does better. And that's what we are about. So we are excited about the challenges. And I want to thank the team. It's not easy work. They come under a lot of pressure, right? And I want to thank them for continuing to drive this industry quietly and loudly. And we still have a lot of work to do, but we will get it done.
Absolutely. And we are hopeful and we are excited, in particular for the Caribbean Agriculture Conference that's coming up. Give us the dates again, and how can people participate or register?
September 27 to October 2nd. Michelle, do you want to come and just quickly tell people how they can
register to be a part of it?
Well, we don't launch
have all
it
the
yet for
information.
registration. So we're going to have the launch
Okay.
on the 21st of May. That's next week. We're going to have the official launch. But people who want to get involved early, there is space for exhibitors. There is space. So Michelle has a mic, sir.
Okay. Michelle, sorry to put you on the spot.
Director,
we know you may not have all the information, but just enough. Go ahead, please.
All right. Good morning, and thank you.
Morning.
As the Minister would have mentioned, we are launching next week on the 21st at 1 p.m. The save the dates are out. For persons who are interested to participate, either as a participant, a representative of a government, or an exhibitor, or in any other form,
I do believe the microphone is not on.
The registration.
There you go. Yes.
Once we launch, we will launch the website as well. It will be the official website for TWA 2026, and all registration will take place on that platform.
And who do we want to attend, Michelle?
We want every agricultural stakeholder to attend. Once you have an influence on agricultural development across the space, you're a farmer, you're a fisher, you are a policymaker, all stakeholders we are inviting to attend with us. Investors particularly, as we call for increased investment in the space.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the formalities. Put your hands together, please, for Honorable Minister. Minister, congratulations on another presentation, sir. We are hopeful. We look forward to, of course, growing forward here in Jamaica with our agriculture, fisheries, and mining sector. Ladies and gentlemen, as we've had a very good chat with our minister, we thank you for being a very attentive audience. And so we have a very special treat for you. We have a performer in the house. Her name is Miss Jamaica Johnson, and she's going to be singing for us today. So without further ado, I ask that you please put your hands together. Let's welcome her to this space.
I was right here all along. Here's fine. Thank you. Just want to big up Minister. An excellent presentation. That's what they do. They don't understand. Hold still and push and go through. Yes, they love. They call me names, but they don't understand. When them see me, I hold my head up just the same. Me not see them when them keep on talking. Yeah, me not see them, me just keep on walking. I've got my pride. Me not go show no bad side. So when them see we as a big pushover, them see me laughing, me not go keel over. Oh no, not I. I will survive. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them lead you astray starting today. Live your life and live it your way. When you go through heartaches, and when you're feeling pain, when you end up in a desert, and I wonder why the hell in a rain, they call you names, think you weak, but you not blunder. But mine, I let your business asunder. Don't give them that power. Show them you can be stronger. Take up yourself and not make them a wonder. How you get up when they might try keep you under. Don't believe their lies. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. 'Cause people talk, that's what they do. They don't understand when them see a push and just one through. They may laugh and call you names. They just don't understand when them see you hold your head and go through. When them see me just keep on walking. Me not hear them, me just keep on talking. I've got my pride. Me nah go show no bad side. And when them see we as a big pushover, them see me walking like me I go kill over. Oh no, not I and I will survive. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them take away your liberty. Live your life and be free. Never let them get you down. Never let them see you frown. Never let them lead you astray starting today. Live your life and live it your way. Never let them get you down. Don't let them see you frown. Just live your life and live it your way.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Jamaica. Reasons why we love being a Jamaican, right? Super talented people, and we do excellently. And Minister, what we want people to talk about is definitely the plans that you have outlined for our agriculture, fisheries, and mining sector. We have so much to look forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of this morning's event. And we want to encourage everyone to please go on over to the ministry's website. Go on ahead, look at that 10-year plan. Please give us your feedback because we want it. And we encourage you as well to please keep tuned with all the platforms that you can continue to hear what's going to be happening and play your part. This only really works. How we grow forward in Jamaica, it only works if we do it together. And so it takes everyone's heart and hands and minds on board so we can see the vision come to light. It has been my pleasure. My name is Debbie Bissoon. Have a wonderful rest of day. Thank you so much for joining us.